Hey guys, this is Steve for CollectorMania. I'm here doing a deck tech, another one in our 32 series. We're moving right along in the order. We're going on to Azorius. This is kind of a new format that we're trying out. So as you'll see on the screen, the card's right there in front of your face. You can read it a lot easier than you probably could have in the previous videos, just going card by card. So anyway, just let us know how you feel about this, comment on it, and let us know how we're doing. With that, we'll kind of get into the deck here. We're doing Hanna Ship's Navigator. This is one of my favorite decks to play, really. It's a kind of combo artifact deck that, I don't know, just works beautifully in my opinion. So anyway, our first card here, we're going to go with creatures, is Hangerback Walker. One of those newer cards from Kaladesh, of course. Or no, it was from actually Origins. Yeah, that's correct. It was kind of hard for me to get a hold of it for a really long time. Finally got a few copies of it, and I haven't looked back since. Great for making little flyers. Great for chump blocking as well. Anyway, that's Hangerback Walker. Let's move on to Walking Ballista. This is a new addition to the deck. I was able to actually get it in one of my pre-release packs, which was awesome, because I know it's quite an expensive card now, or at least it used to be. Inside the deck, it kind of combos with a lot of things, and you can usually nuke an opponent with this, or just kill a whole bunch of creatures, depending on what you want to do. I know a lot of people try and run this with Death Touch. Unfortunately, I hadn't planned that in here, so there's none of that, but still works really, really well. Moving on from there, we've got Merchant's Dockhand. This card has been instrumental in quite a few victories, actually. It doesn't seem like it's that powerful, but it actually is. Being able to tap a whole bunch of your artifact tokens, even your clue tokens, doesn't even matter. Yeah, and just dig through your deck until you find what you need, essentially, to win. So that's Merchant's Dockhand. I will, quickly say there is a big untapped theme in the deck, and you'll kind of see that as we go. Next card is Azorius Guildmage. Really great control card. Really good at keeping, blockers tapped down, attackers tapped down, stopping people from hitting you with their commander, of course, stuff like that. Also, the counter target activated abilities really comes up quite a bit. You'd be surprised. And then we've got a few mana dorks here. We've got a gold mirror, and we're going to kind of go through these a little quick. Then we've got a silver mirror. And then we've got a Burnished Heart, which is just a good way in these colors to find mana. And then we've got a Scrap Trawler, which really combos with the deck. It really sacrifices a lot of artifacts. Hanna's ability helps a lot with that, being able to recur those artifacts, which is why a lot of artifact stacks is in here, of course. This card is awesome. I recommend it in pretty much every artifact build. Then we've got Thassa, God of the Sea, really good for making creatures unblockable, plus the Scry one at the beginning of your turn is great. We've got Treasure Mage, great for finding Staff of Nin, is usually what I use it for, or late, really late game I find Memnarch with it and just win that way. We've got Trinket Mage, great for finding Wayfarer's Bauble, Soul Ring, stuff like that. Trophy Mage, another new card from Kaladesh, awesome. Being able to find your Coalition Relic or, even your Burnished Heart, just great. Afara, God of the Palace. A lot of creatures are entering the battlefield and leaving the battlefield, so this god usually helps you draw at least one card, at the beginning of the next player's turn, so that helps out. Plus it's an enchantment, so it's recurable. Then we've got Quicksmith Spy, another really good card draw engine. And I've got Solemn Simulacrum, what Solemn does. Treasure Keeper, another artifact to sacrifice. Vidalcan Archmage, really good another really, really good card draw engine. If you're playing artifacts and you're playing blue, I recommend playing this guy. I know it's probably one of those cards that's not on people's priority most of the time, but it's definitely helps me out quite a bit. Then we've got Angel Invention. This one is kind of new as well, and it might come out later. It's kind of just in there as a flying blocker, but I don't know. It's a pretty cool card. I like it better in token strategies, but here it's okay. It makes little artifact tokens for me. And then we've got a Cataclysmic Gerhulk. I've had quite a few really, really good games with this guy. usually you can kind of just establish a really great board control with him. You know, keep your opponents off their massive creatures, you know, so they can't, you know, destroy you with a bunch of guys. Let's see. Then we've got a Revel Arc, great for bringing back quite a few of your smaller guys. Duplicant, exile removal. Sun Titan, recursion engine. Angel of Serenity, I love this card. I can't talk about it enough. Really good for grabbing guys off the board, you know, getting rid of threats, stuff like that, but also really, really good for recursion. If you have quite a few things in your, you know, creatures in your graveyard that you'd really just want back in your hand, I will usually just play this card, grab them, and then somehow sacrifice it, you know, get it destroyed, swing into somebody, or, you know, anything. Really good card, highly recommend it. Then Memnarch, one of the win conditions of the deck. The deck has a really, it's really easy to make infinite mana in the deck, I'll say that. Then we've got Platinum Angel. Then we've got Colossus of Akros. This guy's just a really good finisher, giant monster that a 20/20 indestructible. So anyway, from that we will move on to our enchantment. We only have one. It's a Mind Stylation. Being able to play this and then it gets destroyed and being able to recur it is great. A lot of people know this is a huge threat, and that, you know, essentially every time they cast their first spell during their turn or anybody's turn, you get to cast the top card of their library, which is extremely powerful. So Hanna really works well with this. It's a great card. So anyway, from that we will go on to, I believe we are moving on to artifacts, which is the main chunk of the deck, of course. New addition that I got in my previous pack the last weekend, Pyramid of the Pantheon. I'm excited to try this out. Kind of a slower Gilded Lotus, but I mean, comes out on turn 1 and fixes your mana all the way up until it gets 3 counters on it, and then you've got essentially a Gilded Lotus, so pretty cool card. And then we've got a Pyxis of Pandemonium. I keep saying Pyxis wrong. I think a lot of people will be like, well, what does this card do for you? It's kind of a weird win condition that I built into the deck. The idea is that you put most of your library into the graveyard, which we'll see in a second how to do that, and then you essentially just use Paradox Engine and recurring spells like just any artifact and like a Sword of Parons to untap Hanna and keep playing the spell, and this is when you make infinite mana essentially. And instead of milling your opponents out, you actually exile their libraries out. It's something that I've only pulled off like once or twice, but when it happens, it's amazing. Cool card. Plus, in a pinch, you can actually sacrifice it and do what you need to, you know, get your spells back and stuff like that. So anyway, on from that, we've got, of course, Soul Ring. Great for every EDH deck. And then we've got Wayfarer's Bauble, another kind of mana fixer. And then we've got Feldwar Stone, just a good mana rock. Perpetual Timepiece. And this is essentially the combo with that card. You use this to mill yourself out while you untap, you know, all your permanents and then just retap them. Then a little bit of protection. We've got a Swiftfoot Boots. Thought Vessel, another mana rock. I've talked about this in several of my other videos. Having no maximum hand size is, of course, great. And then we've got Azorius Cluestone, just another mana rock. I really like this. I know a lot of people don't really care for the Cluestones too much, but I like being able to sacrifice it and draw a card. It also just really helps with mana fixing and stuff like that. Not decent mana rock. Coalition Relic, of course. Amazing mana rock, especially with as much as you can untap and retap things. We've got Commander Sphere. Awesome self-sacrificing artifact, able to let you draw a card and fix your mana. Cultivator's Caravan. I included this card mainly because it can become a creature. At 5/5, and sometimes that's important, you know, if you just need that chump blocker or you just need to attack somebody to finish them off. I've got Rings of Brighthearth. Of course, double activated abilities are great. Hanna really likes that. You know, most of this deck is activated abilities, so it just makes sense to include it. 1,000-Year Elixir, giving her haste to activate. Amazing once again, plus being able to untap her. Umbral Mantle. This is one of those ways to kind of go, the infinite mana, the infinite whatever you need to do. I think I have this and the swords, and those are the two ways. So you're really looking for these. Trophy Mage is huge with this because she can find both of them. So just cool to include. Biden of Thassa, a little bit of extra card draw. We're really not swinging too much, which is kind of why, going back to the Angel of Invention, probably why this card and maybe that card will come out. We're not necessarily trying to rely on combat damage to win in this deck, but I mean, if you need to, these are kind of built in there. More tinkering, I guess. I've got Hedron Archive. I've talked about this a million times once again. Great artifact. Then one of our big board wipes is Nevergnarl's Disc. Being able to blow up the world is great. Another new card, Oracle's Vault. I'm excited to try this one out too. I feel like it's going to be pretty big. I think I can get the brick counters on there pretty quick and then just essentially just cast everything off the top of my library. It should work out really well. I think this card will be pretty broken in this setup, especially with Paradox Engine, which we'll get to here soon. And then the Swords of Perons. Oh, I was incorrect. I can't actually find this with the Trophy Mage, but either way. Cool card. Same kind of untap effect that we're looking for. Then we've got Vidalcan Orrery. Of course, instant speed everything is great. Gilded Lotus, some extra mana. Usually the one that I want to see to try and make that infinite mana. Paradox Engine, of course. This card is broken as I'll get out. It is an amazing card, and I would not be surprised if it does get banned someday. It's really, really good. The argument against it, of course, not being banned is that you need cards to combo with it, which makes sense, and I understand that, and I like it. I don't want it to get banned, but I have a feeling that maybe someday it might just get too crazy. Awesome card, though. Staff of Nin, one of my favorite includes in artifact decks, just being able to draw cards, plus ping people. Planeswalkers mainly is what I usually put this in there for. And then let's move on to, let's see what's up next on my list here. I am on to Instants, so give me a sec here. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of removal. We've got a Source of Plowshares, of course. Staple in mono white, or any white. Then just a really cheap counterspell. We got Negate. It saved my butt plenty of times, when somebody goes in to do even like a Cyclonic Rift or something like that. Just being able to tap 2 mana and counter it works great. Blue Sun Zenith, card draw, of course, plus reshuffles into your library. Sphinx's Revelation, more card draw, plus life gain. Sometimes that's important, especially if people know what you're doing. Then we've got a War of Invention. This is probably my favorite card in this slot. Probably my favorite instant in the entire deck. I like the Artifact Convoke. That's really cool. I'm really happy they decided to go with this ability, essentially. Or keyword, what I'm trying to say. It can find pretty much anything that you're really looking for to win the game in this deck. It can also just early game find you a mana rock or anything, really. And there's just countless applications for this. So anyway, that's War of Invention. Then we've got Aetherize, a little bit of protection. I've been trying to leave Cyclonic Rift out of a few of my decks because my play group's kind of getting a little tired of it. Makes sense. I understand. So I've kind of gone to some alternatives. This was one of my favorites from this block, really. Aetherize is a great gotcha card when everybody some opponent beefs up their Avengers Zendikar tokens to 1,000,000, and then you're just like, okay, well, I'll put them all back in your hand, and then they'll disappear. So just an awesome card. Insidious Will, another new card. I'm interested to see how this works with the whole copy target instant or sorcery. Sometimes I think that'll be important. I think the one time I've done it is on Swords to Plowshares, and that was actually really crucial that game because I think one person had an Avacyn and then another person cloned an Avacyn, and it was just like, well, how do I get rid of 2 of them? And this card solved that problem for me, so there you go. And then we've got Return to Dust, a little bit of exile removal for enchantments and artifacts. I highly recommend this card. It's great. Works really, really well. I haven't really found its equal quite yet, so. Then we've got another pseudo counterspell, end the turn, time stop. Great blue control. What more can be really said about this? There's a lot of tricks you can do with it, so. And then I believe we are moving on to sorceries here. There's only 2 in the deck, so pretty light on sorceries. 1 Supreme Verdict for a little bit more board wipe if we can't find our disc, which is usually what I prefer, you know, in this type of deck. And then we've got a Saheeli's Artistry. This card in this deck is really, really good. Being able to copy, you know, a creature like even like your scrap trawler, and then be able to copy, you know, any other artifact, or it just works really, really well. I kind of wish it was instant speed, but that's just my greed getting a hold of me, like normal. I always, you know, just add 1 more mana symbol on it and call it instant. I'll be fine with that. Okay, moving on from that, I think we're on to our lands. I've got a little bit of a different sheet here for that. So they'll go in alphabetical order. There's a lot of just, you know, the regular blue-white, you know, dual lands, essentially. But first up, we've got an Arcane Lighthouse. Be able to target hexproof creatures, shroud creatures is great. So that's why that's in there. They've got a Blighted Cataract. Late game, you just, you know, sacrifice this, draw some cards. Works out well. Command Tower, of course. Why wouldn't we have that? Glacial Fortress, just blue-white dual land. Halmar Depths. I'm not too big on this card anymore. I kind of put it in there just because I had it laying around. I like it sometimes, but most of the time it's kind of like, whatever, I can live without it. Then we've got a Lonely Sandbar, a little bit of cycling, draw some cards. Meandering River, another dual land. Nimbus Maze. It's one of my favorite cards. I wish they'd print this whole cycle, to be honest. It's really cool. I love the artwork on it. Another one of those hopes and dreams. And then we've got a Port Town, kind of a newer dual land. Really cool, though. Reliquary Tower, of course. We've got to have those hand sizes. Remote Isle, another cycle land. Rogue's Passageway, another. Once again, this deck's not really combat-oriented, but with the Colossus, sometimes being able to give them unblockable is great. Just finish somebody off. We've got a Temple of Enlightenment, Temple of the False God, Warped Landscape, a little bit of mana fixing. And then I believe the deck runs 11 plains and 11 islands. So anyway, with that, that is the deck tech. Once again, let us know if this format works for you. We're going to try this and then, you know, maybe try and play around with it a little bit more with some other stuff. We're slowly upgrading here, which is nice, which would be cool. You know, if you guys really want to support us on Patreon, I definitely recommend that. It kind of helped us get into, you know, more of these kind of slicker looking designs that a lot of people are using. But we'll get there when we get there either way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.